I am so blessed to have been one of 4 daughters with a really lovely mother. And she was not perfect. I have my mommy issues in my life that I've dealt with, and those were perfect. And yet, she was the first love of my life, and she was lovely in so many ways. And when I see mothers and daughters in particular, I'm always like, just love on each other. It's such a gift when we're physically present. But what I have learned is that I obviously can still feel her presence, and it's been quite a while. And so for those of you who may be shedding a tear today or missing a mother figure in your life, I just invite the remembrance of the energy, of the feeling tone, of the love that has been shared, because that is endless. It is the only thing that is real, eternal, and everlasting. All of the mommy and daddy issues that we all experience, and all of those little thousands of obstacles that appear to block love are there really truly to remind us that underneath everything is love. That is eternal. And that which is not love or does not appear as loving, and there's no condoning of poor behavior in any of this, but that which comes off as unloving is a cry for love. So it's still love in some way. And we've matured enough in our spirituality to be able to rise, to soften the body eyes, so that we may see beyond appearances, to meet those cries for love with love. It is said in A Course in Miracles that all things are the echoes of the voice for God. Echoes of the voice for God. What does that mean? Well, all I know is that on my walk this morning, on a spring day, somebody planted, Mother's Day in spring, and all of life is creating right now. Everything is in a creative mode. The birds are laying their eggs. I think the geese are back perhaps in our property, our campus, doing the same. All of life is creating. The flowers are coming up. We're having just a magnificent expression of life. And in the song, Isn't She Lovely? He speaks of Aisha, the name Aisha, which means to be alive. And so part of what we're called to be and do is to not only be alive, but to be aware and awake. And our conversation today is truly about the creative process. We're in the keys to the kingdom, and we've talked about the key, the very first key, which is desire. And desire is, you can think of it as something that's whispering in your ear, tugging at your heart, that stays with you throughout your life, that whispers something that is just for you, your heart's desire. Not a surface level desire, not a conditioned desire, but we followed that thread over the last couple weeks. What would I love? What do I desire? But what do I really, really want? You see, desire is synonymous with love. And in our creative principles, it is love that points the way. And love descends into the consciousness like a seed, a divine idea. It's a divine idea in the mind of God that is just for us, just for you, unique for you. And when, as a wise gardener, we look at all the seeds that might descend into our awareness, we begin to be conscious, alive, awake, aware, and we select the seeds that we will plant in the soil of our consciousness, in the womb of our being. And when we wholly commit to a divine idea, the seed, and we partake of it, we receive it, which is the divine feminine aspect of being receptive to the divine idea. And we take it within our very body, within our being. And boys, you do this too. This is not about gender. This is principle, and it's spiritual principle. And the outer form of the feminine that may be female and the masculine are voices for God. Voices for aspects of God that are symbols and symbolizing to us this creative process. So the divine idea, when it is received, nurtured, there is an expectancy in this conception, in this idea of being received, accepted, nurtured, dreamt about, protected, until it is ready to be birthed. And so the divine idea is the seed, goes into the soil of our consciousness, the womb of our soul, where we water it with affirmations, with the vision. And then when it is ready, when the gestation is complete, it is birthed into form. The seed to the soil to the plant, the expression, the symbol of creation in form. And that's what each and every one of us is. We're each little plants, little flowers, little divine ideas that are held in the mind of God, of spirit, held in the mind, in the womb of the goddess, that it may extend as love, conceived in love, extend in love as form. So this is the idea, and I remember my first ministry was in the science of mind and in this creative model. I remember when I was studying what the divine feminine meant, I didn't like it very much because it had the connotation of being submissive, of being perhaps not as strong as that creative impulse or that desire. And what I have come to know is that one doesn't exist without the other. It's just symbolism. And in that embracing of both aspects, and I feel as if as a person who is called to ministry, like an apology on behalf of all ministers and all people who have stood in places like this who did not speak of the divine feminine and only exalted the divine masculine. And that we became a patriarchal system that sometimes warps into a toxicity that just doesn't work. We need both. We need the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And it is the power of creation. So we have these first two impulses, that impulse of that divine urge to create, the seed idea, the divine idea. And we're calling that desire. And it's that holy impulse within us. But desire without intent, which is our second key, is fantasy. Have you ever felt like your dreams are just off in the dreamland of fantasy? I mean, some of us are getting on in years. It's like, what is, the desire of my heart? But the desire of your heart, if it hasn't been received, is still there whispering in your ear, tugging on your heart. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Something's calling. Something's calling. A vision calls us forward. And so we're at the point in our spiritual maturity where we're not only courting that desire And in our meditation, we might say, oh God, oh Spirit, what do you want me to be when I grow up? And Spirit says, no, no, beloved, what do you want me to be? We're co-creative. And so when we take that desire of the heart that is just fantasy, just a dream that never comes into experience, and we marry it with intention, that intention becomes the crystal clear directive energy that brings the desire into form. And so the marriage, and I'm going to call it the marriage of the two together, desire with intention, moves mountains. I don't know how. I know it's not by force. It's by alignment. When we align in that way, we become that channel for all power under heaven and earth to move through us as us. And so, in some ways, we need do nothing but that integration of desire with intention. Intention is cultivation in time of practice, a continual redirection. Oh, I said I wanted to do this. This is the desire of my heart, because we've cultivated in our culture the art of distraction, have we not? Many of us have lost our attention span. And over time, we see a prevalence of what's called attention deficit disorder. And I would suggest and say that may be true, and that may help us in some ways. And yet we still have the power to begin to cultivate the art of intention and focus. What intention is, it becomes like that laser-like focus in which we dedicate. So how do I practice intention? How do I practice it? I dedicate my whole life to whatever my desire is. I become wholly committed. In 12-step, they say, half measures avail us nothing. Have you ever been a little in and a little out? How's that worked for you? You get kind of mixed results, don't you? But over time, we begin to cultivate the desire to be all in, because we know that as I'm all in with Spirit, as I'm all in with the vision that's pulling me forward, that in some ways I actually need do nothing in the world except what I'm guided to do. And that pathway almost meets you, rather than you having to go out and find it. Ever have that experience? Somebody knocks on your door, or you're thinking of somebody and they call you, and you've been calling forth something divine, this divine idea, and if you're open to this as not being just a coincidence, but as part of the way it works, as part of that creative vibrational field that you're attracting to you. So the invitation is to, Aisha, be alive, awake, and aware to all the ways that messengers for love and God are knocking on your door, to answer the desire of your heart when we're all in, when we're all fully there. So I want to merge this with the idea of the way that we've been taught as being kind of the way of Jesus. We're very focused upon the way of Jesus. And what do I mean by that? Jesus specifically had a ministry in the world, and it cultivated the divine masculine energies. And the ministry was specific. It had a beginning and an end. And it was a way of being in the world by doing. What we're introducing with the divine feminine on Mother's Day here is we're introducing the way of being, the way of embodiment, the way of being that soulful energy that accepts and receives a divine idea and can envision, see it complete, see it already done. And the idea of this being the way of Mary, or the way of the divine feminine. And I think of it like when I think of mothers, when I think of the mothers of the Bible, I think of Mother Mary, mother of Jesus, Mary. And I think of what it must have been like for her, to have received a divine idea by an angel whose first words were, "Fear not, be not afraid, but I have some news for you." There's a divine idea that's seeking to come forth, and it makes no sense by your culture or by the world. But there's a full-on trust and commitment to accept, to receive the divine idea. This is the divine feminine. At the very same time, this would not have been possible had Joseph not stood by her side at that time and in that culture. Whether we believe it was a divine happening or whatever it is, it matters not. It took them both. It took the divine feminine and the divine masculine to allow the Christ to come through, to allow Jesus to be born so that Jesus could become Christ. But here's the deal. Do you really think an entity by the name of Mary would be capable of birthing something unlike herself? So, in my intuition, in my experience, what drops in for me around Christmas time is that Mary is Christ. Christ begetting Christ. And Joseph is Christ, because without him, she probably would have been stoned. Something would have happened to her that would not have allowed her to be and do and to conceive what she was asked to bring forth. That's the way of Mary, but it's not independent of the way of Jesus. It's together, and we've been missing half of the story. I think of Mary Magdalene. Many believe, and we can argue, but I don't, that she was the betrothed of Jesus, his divine partner at the very least, an apostle in her own right. Why do I think this? Well, because there have been gospels and writings and scriptures that have been found. In the Nag Hammadi findings in the 1950s or whenever it is, there's the Gospel of Mary, there's the Gospel of Thomas, there's the Gospel of Philip, and they all point to this. But they are missing from our Bible, the Christian scriptures. And this Mary, I find it interesting, is the first. So we have the receiver of the divine idea, the conception, the conception of the divine idea, but in this Mary we have the one who recognized the resurrected Jesus first. The first to see, no, he is not dead, he is alive. He is resurrected. In the Gospel of Mary, she actually goes and tells the disciples, "Grieve not, the Son of Man, the Son of God, lives within you and is present now with you. Do not grieve and do not lose your way, because something has happened. So we have the one that receives the divine idea, the one who recognizes it. This is all feminine, divine feminine, that sees this, sees beyond appearances, because biologically has the ability to hold within her a divine idea that can, before it even comes forth, is already held in the mind. I know that there are mothers who experience loss. And I know that once that divine idea is there, that love is still eternal, no matter what. There's not always rhyme or reason in this experience. But that being in that soul still is alive, has still served, and still serves. The way of Mary. How about the way of Myrtle? How about our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, who, because of the way that she nurtured herself, her body temple, rather than admonishing the disease that was happening in her body of experience, in her form, rather than going, medicine back then was really scary. They did scary things and in the belief that it would help, but she went to consciousness and she lovingly nurtured her body and it responded. It responded and she had a healing. We forget that that's the basis of our teaching. And so, in a way, we have this trajectory of what is. We have the conception of Mary, mother of Jesus. We have the recognition of Mary Magdalene. And we have the embodiment of Mother Myrtle. We have the seed idea, we have the receiving and the recognition of it, and we have the embodiment and the form of it. We have inherent in this the creative process. This is the way it works, and it repeats over and over and over in our teaching. And so then the invitation becomes, how do we integrate this desire and this intention like a marriage, a union? How do we integrate within ourselves the divine masculine and the divine feminine in a mystical union of wholeness and oneness? Sounds like unity, doesn't it? Sounds like oneness, not two-ness. Sounds like perhaps we've come in different forms in this experience, but we need each other to create, to fulfill our vision and mission as a community of spiritually awakening, living in peace, love, and joy, and transforming our lives and transforming the world. We need both. I had the privilege of being at a wedding this week. Love never ends. And even when there's been loss, individuals still come together because we have a propensity for union. We have a propensity for wholeness. I remember when my mother was, we were evaluating memory care units for her. It was a very challenging time, and I went on a tour of a place, and I'm in the elevator with the host who's giving me the tour, and there's two elderly people in the elevator, and they're holding hands. And they were like little school kids, just in love. And my perception was that they went there together. And the woman told me, no, they met here. Now, I don't know that they recognize their family members anymore, but they recognized love. The wedding that I went to are two people who are widowed, who are in their 80s, and brought together two families. And these families met each other and loved over, a 3-day wedding. And it was beautiful. 89 and I think 83, something like that, doesn't matter. The propensity for love is there, always. And is that not really the desire, the true desire of our hearts? Not just marrying our desire with intention or marrying the masculine and the feminine, but union within ourselves with our Creator. Everything is just an echo of the voice for God, calling us towards wholeness, towards union, towards love. This is what I know, and this is what I claim, and this is the creative process. And so as we move towards meditation in a minute, just in a second, I just have a couple of questions that I want to ask us to take to this song that we're going to have. And you know what? I highlighted the heck out of this, and I just can't find it. Hazel, pray for me. Pray that she finds it soon. So what I want us to do is that there is something within us yet to be birthed. There is something within us that is wanting to be married with intention. There's something within us that wants to be wholly committed to something. And my question is, are you willing to receive? Are you willing to receive what is right there for you? Are you willing to receive in the womb of your soul that divine desire and commit your life to it? Nurture it, love it, see it already complete, beyond appearances. And that's the question.